Hello everyone, welcome to another game I played on Ptcgo. This time I'm trying out a slightly different deck, as you guys will see shortly. It's still a Team Plasma deck, I will say. I'm starting off here with no energy in hand, which is pretty terrible. But I do start off with a Tornadus and a Regigigas. So I'm going to promote Tornadus. Hopefully I can hit an energy and use Windfall. It'll allow me to shuffle my hand and draw cards. I have a Plasma Ball, but I don't really want to use it because I run Umbreon in this deck. That's mainly why I have Plasma Ball. So I don't really see a reason to use it quite yet. So I'm just going to end my turn and let my opponent go. He starts off with Moltres and a Deoxys on the bench. Now Moltres, don't really know, doesn't really see any play, so it's kind of weird. Then again, neither does Regigigas. I have still no energy in hand, so I'm going to use my Plasma Balls to draw out Pokemon just to be able to co-rest for more cards. I'm going to bring out a Kyurem, which I also run in this deck, and I think another Tornadus, just in case. And just use Chorus. Hopefully, we can hit an energy and then be able to start attacking with Windfall. And unfortunately, I don't hit it. So I'm just going to use Laser the active Moltres and end my turn. So my whole strategy with this deck is actually to use Umbreon to add HP to all of my Pokemon. And since Regigigas is not a Team Plasma Pokemon, I just use a Plasma Badge to make him one. And that means that he gets 20 HP for each Umbreon in play. That's why I've kept the 2 spots on my bench to give them all plus 40 if I can, potentially get enough Umbreons in play. So here, debating whether or not to put another Pokemon down, but I really want the bench space for Umbreon, so I'm just going to Core Rest. My opponent attacked me with Destructive Flame for 30. Fortunately, I didn't have energy attached, so he couldn't discard any. I'm going to attach a Water to Tornadus. Windfall for 6, and I like this hand slightly better. I finally get an Eevee, and I get an energy. So that's really good. But my opponent's going to hit me with a Laser. This time put me to sleep, which quite annoying because I don't have Keldeo out and I really don't want to take up another bench spot. So he's going to end me into a different hand and hit me again for 30. Fortunately, Sky Arrow is in play and Veer Bank is not. So I'm going to attach a Plasma Energy onto Regigigas and N. Finally, I get Eevees back in my hand, and I'm going to put them both down and just end my turn. I really can't do anything still. But I'm still not really clear about what my opponent's strategy is. He just has put down a Latias, so that doesn't make all too much sense to run with Deoxys and Moltres, since it's not a Plasma Pokemon as well. Unless he's also using my strategy of using Plasma Badge. So he's actually going to attach another energy to Moltres and then switch, and maybe switch back or retreat now that Latias has free retreat thanks to Sky Arrow. My opponent also uses Random Receiver, but it looks like he hits a Skyla, which is really unfortunate. Not the card you want to see, definitely. But then he's going to play Recycle. He hits heads, so he gets to put a card from a discard pile right on top of his deck. And I'm not sure what that will be, but it looks like he's going to place Random Receiver back on top. So we'll get to I'll get to get another supporter next turn. So my opponent's just going to hit me for 40 with Destructive Flame. And now it looks like I'm pretty close to the knockout, so we're getting knocked out. I'm going to Ultra Ball away an Ultra Ball and a Regigigas here to get an Umbreon. That'll give everything except Regigigas plus 20. So give my Tornadus 200 hit points, making it that much harder to knock out, but it's 50 away from the knockout, so my opponent will get it by the next turn. So I'm just going to attach an energy and use it to get 6 more cards with Windfall. So my opponent gets a random receiver, and my opponent gets an N. So that means Windfall wasn't really all that helpful because my opponent got a supporter anyway. And now he's going to, of course, use it. This unfortunately nets me another Umbreon, so I can add 20 to all my Pokemon, and I can hopefully get a way of getting a Plasma Badge. Here I don't really understand. My opponent just used a Crushing Hammer, got rid of the Prism or Plasma Energy on my active. Looks like he's going to knock it out anyway. Seemed like a waste of a card. So here I'm just going to go into Regigigas, let it take some damage, and use its attack, its first attack. Here I have another Umbreon in play, which is really important, and I attach the DC to Regigigas, and I'm just going to Chorus. For 7, I believe, I managed to get a computer search, which I think I can use to get into a Team Plasma badge. But I think unfortunately here I'm going to misplay. I'm going to actually discard the Umbreon instead of the Keldeo. I should really get rid of Keldeo, but I get rid of the Umbreon, which is going to prevent me from increasing my HP even higher. I'll get the badge, but as you'll see, my HP is not changing for whatever reason. So it appears there's a glitch right now. So it should be 40 higher, 20 for each Umbreon, but it's not. So I'm just going to use its first attack, actually Giga Power, instead of its second, and do 20 additional damage to myself to get 80 damage on Moltres. And you see the game is sort of stuck here. I think it takes a while to execute the attack, so really, I don't know. I think there's a glitch going on with these plasma cards. And my opponent really needs to retreat in order to save Moltres, but I don't know if he will. He's going to attach a second Psychic Energy onto Deoxys. Now, it's on the bench with Mr. Mime and Latias. Mr. Mime is not really that helpful, so this looks like it's a Latias, maybe Sigilyph deck at this point. So now my opponent catches up my Kyurem, and now for whatever reason, Umbreon's power is triggered, and my Regigigas gets 40 additional HP. It really doesn't make sense. Triggered on the bench for whatever reason and not anywhere else. There's nothing that says on the attack that your opponent or that your Pokemon has to be on the bench. I'm going to end, and I come into a Float Stone, fortunately. I'm going to retreat Plasma Kyurem and go into Regigigas. Now with 220 HP, I can use Raging Hammer and knock out my opponent. So the whole point of using Regigigas is that its second attack, Raging Hammer, does 50 plus 10 for each damage counter on Regigigas, and if it has a lot of hit points, it can deal out a lot of damage. So it's a kind of Pokemon that you want to leave in the active even if it's poisoned, just because it has a lot of health, even more so when Umbreons are in play. So my opponent promotes Deoxys. He can't knock me out, and he doesn't have Plasma Energy on Deoxys, so he can't actually hit me for more damage, because I believe Deoxys' only attack does 30 plus 30 for each energy attached to your opponent, but only if you have a Plasma Energy on your Deoxys. So my opponent's going to hit me, I think, yeah, for just 30. I'm going to attach a Water Energy to Kyurem, and I'm just going to use Raging Hammer. At this point, it'll only do 100, which isn't enough to knock anything out, especially the Sigilyph he just benched. I can knock out Mr. Mime, but that's not really all that helpful. So I'm just going to go for 100 damage and end my turn. He now attaches another energy to his bench, Latias, and he puts another Latias on the bench. So those are really going to be a liability because soon enough I'll be able to do 160 damage quite quickly. He's going to use another catcher and catcher up Eevee and do 30 to it. Fortunately, I still have a float stone in hand, so I'm just going to attach it to Eevee and retreat it. I think this turn I should probably get a supporter that isn't Juniper because I don't really want to discard all this stuff from my hand. So I'm just going to Sigilyph for, I was hoping a Colress, but it turns out I don't have any more in my deck. So I think I'm just going to go for the N, even though it's going to be a dangerous card right now once I take the knockout. So I'm going to be able to Raging Hammer this time for the knockout, and I can take 2 more prizes. So my opponent promotes Sigilyph, which is the wise move here because he can stall. I can't hit it since I'm an EX and Safeguard is in effect. So he's going to attach an energy to Latias and probably just end it here, but for whatever reason he retreats Sigilyph and goes into Latias and hits me for 70. So this means I can win the game right here, hit him for 170 damage. So yep, that's the whole notion behind this deck, and thank you guys for watching. I will be uploading more shortly. Bye.